Hello, so this is my 1971 Pontiac Trans Am 455 HO 4-speed car. This car I have owned for quite a long time. It hasn't run in quite a long time. I think I took it out of service probably in the early 2000s. This is the last time I drove it, and at that time I stopped driving it. Mostly because the engine was starting to show some blow-by, and it was burning a little bit of oil. But primarily, I think the reason I stopped driving it is because the Muncie transmission, the linkage was starting to get very loose, and it would periodically jam up, and you'd have to stop, get out, roll under the car, and monkey with the linkage in order to get it back into gear again so you could carry on with your drive. So that got old pretty fast, and at the time I just didn't have the time or the money to deal with fixing this car properly. So I basically put it into storage, and it's been sitting inside. It's been sitting inside in a heated shop ever since. But I would like to revive it, get the engine running, and at least sort of assess what condition it's in. So that's what the video here is going to be about, is letting this thing off for the first time, and definitely over 20 years, probably closer to 25. So the first step here will be installing the intake manifold. The original aluminum one I don't have, so we're going to go with this cast iron one. Other than that, we will be putting in a Pertronix ignition, Pertronix 3, to replace the points, and then stabbing that distributor in, and wiring it up, getting the accessories back on. Then we'll have to fill it with coolant, put some gas in it, and hopefully it'll light off fairly easily. Just get the plug wires out. Take the cap out of there. We're going to redo this whole thing. Now, obviously the reason I stopped driving this thing back in the day can kind of be summarized right here. You look at the oil soaking of everything. It had a lot of blow-by, and yeah, it was starting to get kind of low on compression. Not leaking a lot of oil, but definitely burning it. And so I just decided that, you know what, it's time to take it off the road. As for now, I just want to get it into a running state before I go any further with anything else on it. So that's my goal here, is just to fire it up, see what kind of state it's in, and then, you know, I'm not really in a position to rebuild it yet, but soon we'll be doing a teardown. Okay. Let's get to work on that. Okay, well, I'm not going to pretend I know what those numbers mean, but I'm sure they have some significance. Okay, so the main reason to go with one of these Pertronix ignition boxes, points. Points, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, are extremely unreliable. In particular, points may have been good back in the day when they were correctly made, when they were made with good quality control. But the points that you're getting nowadays, let's face it, there's probably only like one or two actual manufacturers making breaker points nowadays, and I'm willing to bet they all come from China. And really, from anecdotal evidence, certainly, and just using my brain, something that's that low production coming from China is probably absolute garbage, and pretty much everybody who still runs breaker points probably will agree that they're not of the proper quality. They're not of the quality that they used to be, that's for sure. So unless you can find OEM breaker points and you are well versed at adjusting them and setting them up, which is not a big deal, but it's just a pain, and it has to be repeatedly done as they wear. Plus, then you constantly have to worry about ballast resistors and making sure you've got the right voltage there. You'll burn the points, and it's just, no, we're not doing points anymore. This is 2023. Points are really obsolete. We can do better, and that is why we are going to install this. And as you can see, it's actually made in the USA. Although this coil actually says it's made in China, so I guess that's just the way it goes. As for what is in here, what's in the box, you may say. What is in the box? Well, not a whole lot. What we have in the box is the plate that it sits on, and the actual unit itself, which really there's not much to it. It's a little box. It's got a magnetic pickup which goes against this reluctor, and yeah, it's this particular one, the Mark III, has a rev limiter, so you can set a rev limiter up on it. It's kind of nice. Claims to be multi-spark, whatever that means, and however that works. Kind of like on the MSD, I imagine. Okay. So the plate can actually only install in one location because there are these locating nubs, and the plate has a hole that corresponds to that. So where was it? I had this. There we go. Okay, so in that location, the little dowel fits in, and then these holes correspond to the holes in the plate. there. And you go there. Okay. So now, this little unit has for some reason 20 years ago, or 20 some odd years ago, I chose to fill that hole with RTV. Probably because at the time I didn't have a grommet. And being young and poor at the time, I probably just thought, oh, RTV will do just as good. Which it probably did. But it's not the proper way to do it now, is it? So wires down through. Just like that. All right, so that is now secured. Pretty clever, really, how that works. Now, I'll put this grommet in here. Alright, grommet installed. Wires in place. There we go. Yeah, so that's basically all that's involved in installing a Pertronix. Pretty simple, really. Now, putting it all back together and just throwing the distributor back in and timing it all, that's the hard part. The actual setup of this thing, it's not that hard at all. Okay, so here's something kind of interesting if you're into interesting things like this. This is the rotor we took out. It is, I don't know, some cheap-ass parts store thing from back in the 90s is when I probably would have put this in. Very light, clearly not very well made. So you can see from that sort of flashing. It's just, it's not best quality And yeah, I'm sure it would be fine, but not a ton of use on it. It is a little burned. But when I took the old, or when whoever took the old Pertronix out of this distributor back in the day, the screws went missing, and they're a specific length, so I needed to find screws. Well, this actually is a brand new old stock, I assume Delco or GM new old stock rotor that was in a 1972 Oldsmobile 455 crate motor that I purchased a few years ago. Actually, it is Delco. It says right there, Delco Remy. Right, Delco Remy. It even says 72 right on it. So yes. Anyways, that engine slated for a different project, but the distributor I won't be reusing anyway. I'm going a different route with that particular engine. And so yeah, I just remembered that was sitting on a shelf. I opened it up and lo and behold, brand new, new old stock rotor. And also, if I wanted them, brand new old stock points. But since I've done away with that, we don't want to use that. Yeah. So this is going into this distributor now. There is. They're keyed, so they only go in one way. There's a square there and a circle there, and they correspond to a square and a circle on this plate here. Just like that. Okay, that is now done. Okay, so I want to stab the distributor in, but in order to do it correctly, the best way to go about it, so you want to put it in with your number one piston at the top of its compression stroke. That's basically what you're shooting for, and then you can adjust a little bit out there, but basically that's what you want. You want to line up your rotor on the distributor with number one on the cap. So there I have a mark on the cap there, so that I will know when that rotor is pointing at, well, it's actually not the cap. It's important. What's important is there. I put a mark outside the cap so that I know, because I'll stab this in with the cap off, and so then I can line up the rotor with that mark there, which tells me that that's the number one cylinder on the cap. The way we know that the engine is timed right at the top of number one compression, there's a few different ways to do it. Most people just guess, and they put a stick in the number one. They take the spark plug out, they put a stick in there or a screwdriver, and they feel for the piston to come up to the top, and then they say, okay, that's good enough. 50% of the time you'll get it wrong, which is why so many times over the years you'll see people who are trying to do this job end up screwing around and having backfires through the carburetor and fire and backfires and flames and all kinds of trouble it's usually, well, 9 times out of 10, it's because they timed it wrong. Because you want to be at the top of your compression stroke, and that's when the spark plug fires. So in order to make sure that you've done that, you need to make sure that A, the piston is at the top of the stroke, and B, that both valves are closed. That's the key. Now, you can do it pretty easily if you have the valve cover off. You can tell. Or, in this case, I'm just going to use a bore scope. And the piston is on its way up now. If I flip to that view on the bore scope, I am able to see, you can probably see that both valves are closed. They're crusty and pretty disgusting looking. But both the valves, the intake and the exhaust valve, are closed. Now, when you have this 180 degrees out, that exhaust valve is opened. And when that happens, you get backfires through the carburetor. Because you stab it in at the top of the exhaust stroke, and then you're out of whack. So anyways, we've verified that this is now closed. Both valves are closed, piston's on its way up. So once this gets to the top of the stroke, and we'll feel for that, we'll pull the bore scope out, feel for that with a screwdriver. Then we can put the distributor in and line it up. Okay, so once you crank it over and get it up close, you can then verify your position by verifying the timing marks. Right there, we can see that the timing mark is now at 0. And if I go over here, put the screwdriver in here, it doesn't go because the piston is at the top. Right? So that is where it wants to be. We can now put the distributor in. Okay, so the only other consideration we have right now is well, there's a couple of things that we need to be cognizant of. One is the slot in the bottom of the distributor. We need to orient that so that it's lined up with the corresponding oil pump drive rod in the block, because those need to be need to be pretty close together in order to get that oriented right. And then the other thing is we need to decide and be aware of where this vacuum advance pot is going to end up. So in this case we want it to be to the driver's side. So come down here. Let's see if it's not a magnetized screwdriver. Okay, so I'm in it and I can feel it. This is stiff. That doesn't feel good. Anyways, now you know you got it when it drops right in there. And if it doesn't drop in, you know you're off. smells right. That's pretty good. And we want this to be somewhat advanced before the mark. Right? Not a tremendous amount, but more or less a little bit. And tighten that down. Put this thing in, give it a tighten, and we're going to call that good for now. It's ballpark anyway. Okay, that's tight. Throw the cap back on to keep all the dirt out of there. And there you have it. That's how you install a Pertronix Ignitor III into a traditional Pontiac engine, replacing the points with a electronic ignition module that has a rev control and multiple spark. Yeah, less maintenance, hopefully better. At this point, I think that's going to be the end of this video, and we'll pick up in the second video with putting the rest of the engine together and hopefully getting it fired up. As always, if you enjoyed this video or found it in any way useful, please like and subscribe. It really does help. Thanks.